Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. I want to talk to you guys about one of the biggest opportunities that I currently see inside of the market. There are so many different altcoins inside the crypto market that it's hard to know exactly which ones to put focus on while we're at the low point of the bear market. I wanted to cover with you guys one crypto that I think is going to set up for some very profitable short-term gains. One that looks almost identical to one of the first Bitcoin bear markets that we saw, and one that I believe is going to have a breakout very soon, leading to new all-time highs into a new cycle. If you're new and just find this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And if you're a new guy just getting into these markets, make sure you do yourself a favor and go ahead and download my free ebook and Beginner's Guide to Crypto. This is going to teach you guys a lot of the basics for understanding how to be profitable, make better decisions, and not make so many mistakes that new guys do. It's free, links are in the description, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Now, first things first, guys, before we jump into this altcoin that I think is going to have some insane price returns for the people that are early in, let's quickly talk about the short-term price of Bitcoin. And let's really go into over here on our last analysis. In our last analysis, we talked about the resolution that we could see the price follow through on these divergences. We have bullish divergence here on the OBV, and we have bullish divergence forming here on the RSI. Now, this is happening after lower lows in price, and we've really just had to chop around this support level near about 18 and 19,000 for the last month and a half. And we're finally getting a little bit of resolution from that. Now, in my opinion, what the short-term price action is telling us is that we're going to at least come back up. And my guess is we're going to retest something up here close to our range highs. I would say anywhere from about 23,000 upwards of about 25,000. This is going to be our range that I'm personally looking for, and I think that it's likely that, at least in the short term, over the next couple months, we're going to see the price actually rise up and kind of tag these levels. Even if prices get stuffed and we come back down to retest the support, I still think that we're going to have at least a short-term relief rally heading into the month of October. It should be a green month for us. And we're starting to see the early reversal signs inside of our momentum indicators. Now, one of the big things that I'm looking at personally, one of the big things that I believe is ultimately going to signal why we're getting a lot of buy support here, if we're looking at the price, or I should say, if we're looking at the volume indicator of the Binance chart, you guys can see that there's been a significant inflow of new money that has entered right here on this dip. And it's happening on the Binance server. You know, some of these exchanges look a little different. None of them look quite as good as Binance. And what I noticed as well is in the last cycle, we oftentimes saw a lot of Binance volume before a big move. Now, I've heard it's a couple different things. I've heard that a lot of Russian volume was coming in here and it was sell volume. But the reason I don't think that is because this is buy volume. All of this is pretty much buy volume in here. The majority of the big volume is coming in as buyers. And one of the reasons I believe we're seeing so much buy volume is because for the first time in history of Bitcoin cycles, we're literally sitting on top of a previous all-time high. These are huge reasons for why there should be a lot of buyers stepping into the market. And we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing a lot of people, a lot of analysts that were bullish all the way down here that are now flipping bearish right as we're retesting those highs. I mean, don't get me wrong, guys. I was bullish throughout this period, but you're not going to catch me flipping bearish right after we've retested a previous all-time high. I think that that's really silly. I believe that we're going to get at least a relief rally in here. And here's the thing we need to remember, guys. We're so close to our end of the year time frames, almost exactly 1 calendar year inside of our bear market. And that's a big thing that we watch for. Bear markets historically last a year in duration. This one was almost exactly 365 days. And if we draw from where we're at, 365 days over, we're looking at the first week of November, which is only 1 month away. We only have 1 month left before our bear market is 1 calendar year from the cycle high, which is exactly what we want to see on a big picture. And not only that, but 365 days and our first week of November is going to be exactly 4 years from our last cycle low. It's not coincidence that these follow exact time frames. If you don't know, 1,450 days is exactly 4 years, right? And so if our bear markets last 1 year and our bear market cycle lows are 4 years apart, then it's not coincidence that the bottom of our bear market is lining up perfectly with pretty much where we're at today. We are going to see a breakout. Even if it's a short-term relief, we do something like this, kind of come back down a little bit, we are going to get a breakout from this. I have a lot of confidence that tells me that this most likely isn't going to go lower than this. It is possible, if the dollar starts pumping again, we make another new all-time high, and then the SPX makes a nasty sell-off. I think that a lot of that will be hindrance upon what the Fed says. If there's a lot of negative news that just randomly comes out, then we could see a quick capitulation below. But the way that the indicators are stacking up, I'm not fading off the fact that we're literally sitting on a previous all-time high. I'm not going to be the guy that's calling for new lows. I'm going to be the guy that's willing to buy right now. We're down 74% from the all-time high. That's right on par with bear markets. We're almost exactly 1 calendar year from our cycle top, which is exactly what we see in prior cycles. And 1 calendar year from our bear market is going to be taking us exactly 4 years from our last cycle low of the last bear market. These are 3 factors that should be huge signals for buying. And so I don't care, even if we go for a lower low, it doesn't matter for me. I'm already taking buying actions. I don't think that there's going to be too much of another opportunity for doing so. I do have money that if we do get one more quick capitulation, I'll buy that. But for me, I really have a lot of confidence that says that most likely the selling is done. We're lining up with our time frames. And so for that, what are the next opportunities that we're looking for? And for me, one of the big opportunities that I see is going to be Hex, and not just Hex, but the PulseChain ecosystem. I've been talking about PulseChain because I really firmly believe that that is going to be one of the biggest opportunities, if not the biggest opportunity that we could have made in the bear market. I watched in the last cycle as Hex launched. And I wanted so badly to get a part of this, but I didn't have any money. I was broke. I was living in my grandma's basement. I was poor. I didn't have the money to get into PulseChain. And then I watched, or I should say Hex, and then I watched as the price of Hex went and made a massive first cycle. And it was in this period that I had even convinced myself, even though I had money at this point, that I was too late, that it was going to have a small cycle from this point and I should have got in early. And then it literally went up way, way, way more, and I would have made so much money had I have just gotten in. And that's why it pays to stick to conviction. I had conviction that Hex was going to be a good play in the last cycle. I didn't stick to that conviction, and I listened to too many outside influences that were saying it was a scam. And then what happened? It pumped so much harder than all the rest. So now that we're kind of at this point, I look at Hex as another one of those huge opportunities inside of the market, because here's what's coming. The PulseChain launch is going to be coming, and this isn't confirmed or anything, and I would actually recommend that if you're into Hex and you're into PulseChain and you've sacrificed for PulseChain and PulseX and all of these ecosystem plays, if this is what please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from my knowledge, when PulseChain goes live, everybody's going to be able to take their tokens and convert it into PulseChain. When that happens, it's under my apparent belief that the people that are holding Hex are going to get a slightly higher conversion rate for PulseChain. If I'm wrong on this, please correct me inside the comments below. But if that's the case, then the short-term price action of Hex would surely rise significantly. And I believe that even if we don't get a higher conversion swapping into PulseChain, I believe that Hex is going to do well just because of all of the hype that's coming in with PulseChain and the launch of its ecosystem. And one of the big things that I'm looking at inside of this chart is how identical it looks to the first Bitcoin bear market that I ever was in. Now, I've never actually bought the top and held all the way through. I actually got into Bitcoin right after we first broke out in 2016. And that was where I bought my first Bitcoin at $450. And so I have done a lot of studying inside of the charts. And one of the most amazing things to me is how identical the price action and the market structure of Hex today looks to that Bitcoin cycle. And this is one of the big reasons why I always tell you guys, markets move because of human emotion. It doesn't really move because of anything else. It's always the humans that are causing the price to move. And it's emotional people that cause these sort of price swings, right? Smart money buys the beginning, they create the foundation, and then it's retail that drives the hype. It's the people that missed out down here. And so when we're watching Hex, even though we've had one cycle, we're still following those same rule of thumb, except instead of it being a parabolic cycle full of greed and human emotion in that regard, it's actually the opposite. We're in a bear market, and we're seeing more bearish sentiment, right? Negative sort of sentiment in the market. And what I find is interesting is how identical this chart looks to the price of Bitcoin in its 2015 bear market. We get the cycle top in the same way. We make a quick capitulation all the way back down to our previous support levels. Because keep in mind, this was the blow off top. We didn't have any support. We were just going up in a parabolic rally. When we sold off, we erased that entire blow off top, fell all the way back down to support here, and then that's where we finally started bouncing. It was the exact same thing that happened with Bitcoin, right? We came back down, we fell on these levels, and it's also exactly the same as far as how the price action looks. We even made the same sort of lower highs and lower lows. Now, Bitcoin sells off, we go right below the support, same thing happens here. We get this ABC up, and we reject. Same thing happened in Hex. And then that's what leads us to our final capitulation, and that's exactly what happened here. It's exactly the same thing. Now, what I find is so interesting is it looks like we're even creating the same bottom formation. After Bitcoin capitulated, we rallied up. The same thing happened here. We rallied up here. We kind of fell back down to retest those lows. Same thing kind of happened here for Bitcoin. And then if we're going to keep following this, which is, probably not likely, no cycles always sync up 100% the same. And we can look at so many different market cycles and say that. But the big thing that we're seeing here, the reason why these are so similar in the bear market, isn't because Hex is 100% tied to Bitcoin, or that Hex is Bitcoin in any sort of way, or that even the same Bitcoin whales are buying Hex. None of that is even the factor. The reason the price structure looks the same is because of the same human emotions that govern each and every cycle. There could be a different set of people buying, a new batch of whales, a new batch of retail investors, and it won't change the fact that it's still the same core emotions that drive price. We all feel the same emotions. It doesn't matter whether we're high, whether we're low, we feel the same emotions, and it never changes. They are always going to be the same emotions. We can't just come up with a new emotion out of our butts and say, this is how I feel. That's just not logical, right? We can't just make things up and say that it's real. We know that there's a certain amount of human emotions that we feel. And we know that when we invest into a market, it pulls at those emotions because this is our livelihood. It's what we work for. It's literally how we provide for our friends, our families, and ourselves. It's how we put food on the table. So when we're taking our livelihood that we spend all this hours and hours and hours of work for, and we put it into a market and it starts going up and down like this, and we may lose 20%, 30, 50, 80% of that money, or we might double it and make 10x and 50, 100x. It's the emotions during that cycle that causes the price to rise. And you guys got to remember that. And so it's the same human emotions that are repeated over each and every market cycle. That's why if you look at all of the old altcoins from dating all the way back in like 2011, 2012, and 2013, if you look at some of those old altcoins that have went through multiple cycles, they all pretty much just create this pattern. They get the beginning, they make a big parabolic rally, they make a 90% crash, they round out, and then they start over again. It's always the exact same patterns because it's the same emotions that govern the price action. And so now that we're here at this point, I think that there's really only a couple scenarios. We're so close to our 4-year cycle low that I believe that this is most likely going to be our bottom and the foundation of our bottom before we actually get to that point. And so if we end up creating a similar fractal, I would be expecting that the short-term price is probably going to rally up to resistance. We might reject here like we did on this move. We might have one more capitulation back down at our range lows like here. But I don't think it changes the fact that most likely what we're building is a long-term base and a foundation of support before our next market cycle. And there's so many different parallels that actually we can look at this. Now inside of Bitcoin's bear market, from our cycle high, it was a little over 1 year before we capitulated. This took 411 days. And then we went sideways for quite a while. The cool thing about Hex today is the fact that this is happening in a quicker amount of time. From where we got our cycle top, from where we capitulated, that was only 270 days. From where we're at today, we're just barely over 1 calendar year. And so what that tells me is that we're at those same thresholds for where we could see a bottom. The main difference here is Bitcoin took a little bit longer just to get to capitulation, and then we went sideways for 280 days. and then we started going up. Hex could be in a period where, because there's less money in it, or maybe just because Bitcoin and the other markets are more bullish and they're going to be taking off quicker than prior cycles, we could actually see this foundation build faster like we already have. I mean, from bottom to capitulation, it was only 270 days, so we're already a few months ahead of schedule when we're comparing it to that 2015 Bitcoin cycle. Now, from where we're at today, we've already hit that threshold for what we wanted to see, 1 calendar year from the high to the low. And so even though it was shorter, we're still following those same given time frames. And I don't think that it really changes a whole lot. What I find is interesting is the fact that it's creating this same sort of pattern. And so I'm personally playing it. If Hex gives a higher conversion for a PulseChain, let me reword that. If when PulseChain releases and people that are holding Hex can actually go and swap it into PulseChain for a higher conversion than said people that are maybe just holding ETH or USDT or Matic or anything like that, let's assume that the people holding Hex are actually going to get a little bit of a higher conversion rate for swapping into PulseChain. If that's the case, the short-term price of Hex is going to rise significantly, and it's all going to be tied upon the release of PulseChain. I believe the release of PulseChain is going to drive value to Hex no matter what, but I believe that if we actually are given a little bit of a higher conversion rate for being able to swap our Hex into PulseChain on the launch day, the price of Hex in the short term is going to rise significantly. And I would not be the least bit surprised if we rally it all the way back up to even all the way up here, which would be like 20 cents. That would be a huge move. That would be probably about 4x from the lows. And so that would be a huge move inside of the altcoins. But that's the thing, guys. If we're looking at that Bitcoin cycle, that's literally what Bitcoin did. It didn't go quite as high, but Bitcoin ended up stopping, it would have been about 16 cents in Hex versus where Bitcoin stopped in 2015. But it's still the same sort of stuff. And if that's going to be the case, we should expect to see another new market cycle from Hex. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go quite as parabolic as Bitcoin. It's impossible to compare anything to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is really just such a staple of the market. It was the first crypto. I can't say with any sort of surety what is going to happen with Hex into the next cycle, but I can say it's the cryptocurrencies that have creators that continue to build, continue to add more to the ecosystem. That is why we see cryptos continue to make new all-time highs in each and every cycle. It's the ones that continue to stick to the plan, and they even surpass the plan. They don't sit here and make these lofty goals that they never actually capitalize on or actually come up with an idea to fix, solve issues. It's oftentimes the people that create their crypto, it does well in one cycle, and then they think to themselves, oh, well, this is our crypto. We don't need to add anything. And those are the ones that usually won't have a cycle. The reason why I believe in Hex is because the creator, Richard Hart, is adding so much new development. He's creating an entire layer 1 crypto and an ecosystem that is ultimately going to benefit Hex. And so if there's an altcoin that's had a cycle that is probable to have another new all-time high in another market cycle, I think Hex fits in that category. And it's one that is so overlooked by the average person. Everybody calls this a scam. Everybody says it's this thing that's literally just going to steal your money, when it's only ever proven that that's not the case. Ethereum has had way more issues than Hex ever has. Solana always has downtime maintenance. It's always going offline. Hex has never went offline ever. Hex has never had these issues. Hex has never been hacked. There's never been any sort of issues inside of the code of Hex. It has proven to deliver money to people, and it does that. It's proven to be a store of value that people can earn interest on, and it has proven to be exactly that and then some. I think that if there's cryptos that you're looking to buy inside of a bear market, look at the ones that have a track history, and look at the ones with a good history and a good track record. Those are going to be the ones that are the safest. And if your crypto has never been hacked, and it's always delivered upon everything it set out to accomplish, and it was one of the best performing altcoins of the last cycle, those are 3 things that really should give you confidence if you don't have confidence before. I'm not saying you should go out and buy Hex. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the market structure looks like 2015 Bitcoin at its cycle low, and we're literally sitting at base support. And so if there's a higher conversion rate for Hex to swap into PulseChain, the short term of Hex is going to rise substantially. There's going to be a lot of people that rush to bottleneck to do the same thing. Even if there's not a higher conversion rate, keep in mind that there is still going to be so much added value to the Hex ecosystem by the launch of PulseChain itself. And when PulseChain launches, there's going to be PulseX, there's going to be liquid loans, there's going to be great opportunities inside of the market to create price expansion, and a lot of price expansion at that. And so I want to talk to you guys about this as a way to summarize some thoughts. I'm personally long on Hex, and I just mean that in sort of a sense where I'm bullish on it long term. I have posted a trading plan inside of my signals, and so if you guys want to know exactly how we're trading the price of Hex, where I'm going to be looking to take profits, how I'm going to be looking to swap into PulseChain and all of those plays, the only way you're going to know what I'm doing with my money is if you join the Discord server. I have a private VIP signals. Anybody that joins that's going to get lifetime access to all of what I'm doing inside of the markets. If I buy NFTs, if I buy cryptos, if I'm implementing yield farms, any of that stuff, token sales, anything like that, it gets posted inside of the Discord. And so if you guys want to be able to know what I'm doing, how I'm trading these markets, make sure you get access. Links are in the description to go ahead and join. With that being said, guys, thank you all so much for the support. I appreciate each and every one of you. I can't wait for this next market cycle because I'm really focusing in on the PulseChain ecosystem and really Hex at that. And I believe that these are going to be some cryptos that perform exceptionally well. Some of those that, have actually done what they've said that they were going to do and then even surpassed expectations. When PulseChain releases, there's going to be a ton of profit, there's going to be a ton of hype, and I really want to be able to get you guys in there on that action, making that same profit with me, because at the end of the day, what good's this channel if I'm not here actively encouraging you guys to do something positive? I want to see you guys be able to make life-changing money. That's why I've always created this channel. That has always been the ultimate goal, to see you guys obtain financial freedom and independence. So many people struggle with money, and they don't need to. There's opportunities scattered throughout the markets, and I don't see a bigger opportunity than PulseChain and that new ecosystem. When it takes off, I want you guys to be a part of it, and even if it's only just a small amount. I think that even small amounts of investments can pay off in a big way. This isn't sponsored content. If you, Richard Hart, want to sponsor my content, please reach out. I genuinely am just bullish on your projects. Has nothing to do with any sort of payment. You guys can guarantee that. I'm not being paid by PulseChain. I'm not being paid by Hex. I'm not being paid by anybody to talk about this stuff. This is 100% what I believe, what I'm doing with my money. And at the end of the day, we're just going to see what happens. But thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for the hate. Either way, you guys all pay my bills. And I'm so very thankful that I get to do this each and every day for you. With that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.